What's going on, everybody? It's Chad, and we're remastering a video, or not really remastering, but doing a video similar to my second video ever on the channel, which was ranking the performance of countries in World War I. We're doing World War II this time, and, you know, the quality of the video is going to be a lot better. I'm here with somebody by the name of
John.
We're here with John David, and, basically, he's just going to be here to be in the background. I don't know if he wants to give input, but he's in the Discord call. But I'm just ranking these countries. Gonna be critical if I need to, and based off what I know, I feel like I know a good amount about World War II, know a good amount about World War I, but today is World War II. There's nothing else to do but get into the video. So, starting off, we will go ahead and I'll see you in a second. I'm gonna organize these countries a little bit. So, we have our rankings based on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 categories. We have absolutely superb at the top and absolutely demolished at the bottom. I've already got some countries that cannot rank in there based off of I just feel like I don't have enough knowledge on them to rate. India's a little bit different. I know enough about them in World War I, but not II. So we have separated it into 8 categories. At the top, we have absolutely superb, so the countries that did the best. Next, we have great, which they did really good. Next, they did okay, which it's better that they were there than not. It means you wouldn't really care a whole lot if they weren't there, but they're somewhat important. Stinky is, they didn't do too great. Just bad is flat out. They did a bad job, and absolutely demolished means, I mean, just looking at them deafens your morale. It's just bad that they were there entirely. And then cannot rank, just countries I don't really think I know enough about with World War II. I know a good amount with World War I on a couple of those, but other than that, let's get right into it. Okay, starting off with the U.S. They joined late. They joined in 1941. I don't have any reason to say they did bad. Everything they did pretty well. In the Pacific, they took all the islands. They fought hard. In Europe, they helped a whole lot going with D-Day and Operation Dragoon. I think if they weren't in the war, it would have been a completely different result. So I don't think I'm being biased when I say absolutely superb, because I can't point out a bad part. I think the U.S. did superb.
All right, let me get my input. So I would say it shouldn't be superb because they weren't superb for the entire time of the war. If they were superb and absolutely superb, they would have had to join from the start. Absolutely superb is basically like
okay, so basically,
but finally you need to remember Grandpa.
Okay.
Grandpa in the Navy.
It's all getting cut out, bro.
Cargo container of those. He shot him up, and then he stole their.
You know what? Okay. His point that they weren't in the war the whole time is true. So, I mean, if they weren't in the war, the Allies would have lost. But I have to leave them in superb. I just feel like they were so essential to the war that it would have been a different result. Okay, the Soviets. USSR, I feel different about them. I just like, they're kind of similar to US. I'm not going to say absolutely superb for sure, because basically when Operation Barbarossa started, they of course started on the wrong side of the war. They were with the Axis powers and invaded Poland, got some other regions. But after that, 1940, Operation Barbarossa started and Germany started pushing into Russia. Russia got gobsmacked by Germany. I mean, for that period where they got pushed back, it was just encirclement after encirclement after encirclement. Smolensk, Stalingrad, Leningrad, Moscow, and Bialystok, Minsk. There's just all these gigantic movements. And then they ended up pushing Germany back all the way to Berlin, Battle of Berlin, all that stuff. I forget to mention that. Germany had to keep on feeding the Eastern Front all those troops. I'll say great, because they had too many blunders to be superb, but they were absolutely essential.
All right, I'll get my take on the USSR.
USSR.
So, if you think of World War II USSR, you can't not think of Tsar Nicholas.
It's all getting cut out.
Big in that war. The main thing that was big was not his army, but his was huge. You could have seen the statues they made of him. They made an extra part, a container, the whole because they were just so big, and they couldn't just contain themselves. Literally, when he walked, it's like. Because it's clanking up against each other.
Alright,
that's why they called the USSR the ironclad for iron.
Okay.
I mean, it's literally like they call them the volley man.
Okay.
They were just huge.
Alright. Okay. So next up we have the UK. The United Kingdom did really good in World War II. for the fact that it was like 3 years almost that they were just completely alone. Their African campaigns where they crushed Italy, El Alamein, think of those places. They basically pressed the Germans and Italians out of North Africa with the US's help, obviously, but they were essential in North Africa. They were essential in the D-Day invasion. They held the Allied powers together when it was basically nothing for the years that after France fell when they got demolished. So the UK, honestly, I'll say great.
All right, I'll give my take.
Oh,
So I think great on the UK is slanderous to their name. They were in the war from day one. And look how hard they fought to keep their country pure and smelling nice.
yeah, I gotta say,
mean,
the Battle
They
of
were in
Britain.
there for a while. The Battle of the Britain and the Bulge and the Bergen. It's like, you can't not think, hey, to all of them, dude. It's like, they did better than America. Put them in absoluteless power.
Okay, so back to the UK for just a second. I think, okay, he was saying a bunch of nonsense. I think the Battle of Britain, that was another one I probably left out, but like, think of those things. Okay, France. If it was World War I, they would get great. But World War II, I literally absolutely demolished. They just,
Ooh.
terrible. Took them about 3 weeks.
Lakers.
Took Germany about 3 weeks to press through Belgium and destroy
Ooh.
France. Or not so much Belgium. I was thinking of the Schleifenplan. Okay, they go through the Ardennes, which the French left unguarded because they thought it was impenetrable. And so Germany, Hitler was like, press a bunch of Panzer divisions in there, get the Wehrmacht in there, and basically, within a couple weeks, Paris is taken. Press out the rest of southern France, and it's over. France got demolished in World War II. I mean, it would take a long time until they would come back. I can't redeem them based on them being rescued at the end of the war. They just did overall terrible. Next up, we have Poland. For being crushed by the Germans and Russians at the same time, they fought hard, and they had good resistance forces, but this isn't resistance forces. This is just Poland. And I really do think Poland's a capable country in the right situation, but they really can't do much there, so I can't say anything but absolutely demolished. Poland just got destroyed. Next up, we have, I think, the Netherlands. The Netherlands, again, crushed. Nothing really good, crazy happened there. Although, like, there were giant battles at, like, Rotterdam, bigger cities, I'm forgetting the name, Amsterdam, like, think of areas like that, but they got occupied really fast. I mean, there was a good amount of fighting there, but, again, demolished. These absolutely demolished are basically the products of Germans' Blitzkrieg. It was crazy what Germany was able to do. Next up, Vichy France. Not Vichy France, the French resistance. They did okay. I mean, in the situations where they were accessible, they helped liberate Paris, they helped liberate other regions of France, they kept insurrection up in France when there was basically no morale to do that there. So I'll say they did okay. Now, I'm saying they did okay because they weren't You know, I'll say top of It could be they did okay, but they're right in that area. They did what they could. Australia. Australia did great. For where they were present, they did okay in the Pacific. Japan almost encroached on them, but I mean, Japan would not be able to invade Australia. Trust me, there's nothing good for them to do there. So I think of them doing okay in the Pacific. They were allied with New Zealand, obviously. I mean, they just kind of reinforced like they did in World War I. Anzac, you can think of that. I mean, yeah, I'll say they did okay. Nothing really wrong with their performance. Denmark.
My take. I'm actually gonna talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Randall Bishop. Who doesn't like a good old visual bishop? What the heck is his name?
Frederick Bishop.
Frederick Bishop.
You say
He
Randall?
ran through those lines and you could have heard his soul dragging behind him. I mean, it was just like he was carrying the boats, aka his and his was the oar. All right, so we're gonna talk about the campaign of Battlefield 1.
All right, you're done.
What
You're
can
done.
you
I'm
think
ending
of
the recording.
Frederick?
Okay, John David is gone. He's no more nonsense in this video. We have Denmark, another country that got absolutely demolished by Germany. Now, with these countries, some of them, like if you think of Czechoslovakia or Austria, either they're letting them in, like I think it was the Anschluss I think that's when Germany took over Austria. Correct me if I'm wrong. But some of the time, they just kind of let them come in, which you're getting nothing but absolutely demolished if you're just going to let Germany occupy you. So that's where Denmark is staying. Luxembourg, really, I mean, I think it was a matter of hours before they were taken out, but they really can't do anything. Luxembourg is, like, so incredibly tiny. Belgium, again, a product of Blitzkrieg. They're between, I'll put them up here, because at least they fought harder. I mean, you see them in World War II, in wars in general, like think of World War I, they show spirit, but they just didn't do that great either. Okay, off to a better note, finally. Not just destroyed countries from Germany. Okay, Canada. Canada did great. I'm not sure they were a fully sovereign country at that point, because I know they were kind of controlled by the UK. But they were a big part in like something like the D-Day invasion, going through at Juno, pushing through France, getting more of Europe unoccupied. I think they did a great job in the war. I'll say they did okay. They're close to on par with Australia, because I mean they're both low populated countries, but they do a good job in what they do. China, yikes. Okay, China was a big distraction for Japan, but also Japanese imperialism at the point when they invaded China was close to unbeatable for those specific countries. I mean, Japan beats Russia in a war. They press through China, take so much of their natural resources. Bad, terrible atrocities like the rape of Nanking happen. Stinky, kind of. I mean, they didn't do that great. I'm not saying stinky because I don't respect them. China was a different country at this point. They just got so mistreated. I think China, what happened, like rape of Nanking, obviously, other major cities in China, horrible treatment from the Japanese. Next up, Greece. Okay, Greece. Okay, I know they were occupied, or no, they were occupied by the end of the war, and then they got liberated, but they started off, pretty good. They were resisting Italian invasion, but then Germany comes in and, they get pressed up pretty easily. They did obviously have help from people like Britain, but they did okay. I'll say stinky. They didn't do great. I mean, they held off for a while, but they couldn't have done much in that situation. But again, stinky. New Zealand, kind of on par with Australia. I'll say because they obviously didn't do as much as Australia, but like, again, think of people like Anzacs. They're just part of those forces that can press into the Pacific and help distract and drive away Japanese imperialism. Just, they were there. Because, I mean, if they weren't there, it wouldn't have been a huge difference, but, they did okay. Norway. So I think this is the final allied power that I'm ranking. Norway, they were a tough nut to crack during the war. I mean, obviously Norway's not the ideal country to invade, although they had good oil fields and were a basin for where Germany would create what their start into nuclear power would be, or atomic power, heavy water. But I mean, it took a lot to invade Norway. I'm going to say they did okay, because they were a huge distraction, took a lot of manpower away from Germany. Now, obviously, the UK was there to help. Some French forces were there to help as well. But they did good enough to repel the Germans for a good while, until, Oslo and all the main cities in Norway fell. Norwegians, they did okay. They fought with everything they had and had a good resistance force. Okay, next. The biggest of the Axis powers, Nazi Germany. Okay. So, in the period between 1939 to 1941, around that area, nothing but absolutely superb military-wise. They demolished everyone. But then after that, when you reach 1941, the Russians start to press back. They declare war on the U.S., which they technically did not have to do after Japan attacks Pearl Harbor. Just kind of shot themselves in the foot multiple times. They screwed themselves, obviously, but I mean, you think of like Battle of the Bulge, they at least had offensives to counterattack. They were alone. I mean, Italy was gone. The USSR was gone. Japan was being pressed back to Okinawa, and they were still trying to fight back. But I'll say they did okay. I mean, if it was 1939 to 1941, superb. Then after that, they kind of fall down, and they did okay in the end for what their situation was. They had probably some of the greatest military feats of all time, all of history. Kind of similar to Napoleon, that type of area where it was just like unbeatable for a while, but then they kind of fall from power. So I'll leave it like that. Okay, my bad, a little break. Okay, next up we've got Italy. Okay, Italy, it's like, what I compare Italy to in World War II is basically the Austro-Hungarian Empire in World War I. Just a terrible job. Benito Mussolini ends up getting kicked out by his own government and people, just bad. Not absolutely demolished, because they did something, helped press into Greece. They were in North Africa. They conquered parts of the Mediterranean. But, like, seriously, just a bad performance. Okay, Japan. Japan shot themselves in the foot, obviously, by attacking the U.S., because they did not really need to do that, although the U.S. probably could have joined the war, but they would have joined later. Successful island hopping campaign, like, through the Pacific before America retaliated. Took giant amounts of China. Russia would never attack them. Again, they make too many mistakes for me to say they were great. Like, they're a big benefactor for the Axis powers, but they just make mistakes. That's why the Axis powers lost the war mostly, because they make stupid mistakes and stand for the wrong reasons. Vichy France, stinky. I know there were attacks on harbors that Vichy France controlled. Later on, they were kind of just like disabled. Not really much happened with them, so they're basically just stinky. Bulgaria. I know they were on the Axis powers in World War II as well. They didn't do a whole lot. They were kind of there. I'll just say because they really didn't participate in war activities. They just kind of sat there and had good diplomatic relations, although they did have some internal resistance movements that freed some Jews. But really, other than that, they didn't do much. Romania was bad. I have a Romanian friend. If you're watching this, I'm sorry. They suck at war. I'm not talking about what they used to be. Romania got demolished. So, absolutely demolished. Finland. They're like a weird in the middle area for what side they're on. So I put them on Axis because they were technically aligned with Germany. And I'll say they actually did okay, because their only real fighting in the war was against Russia, and they repelled them for a long time until eventually worse threats happened, and they had to basically just kind of give Russia a little bit of land and cede from the war. But really, not that bad. Overall, we're gonna check the list. I'll put the UK there just based on the fact that your country is going through the Blitz. You lose France. You lose any other allies for a good while, and you're just standing alone. You successfully repel Germany, which invaded all these other countries, and you still stand strong enough to, multiple years later, go on and invade Europe with the US. I mean, I'll say superb. They could be great, but I'll say superb just based off of generosity. Great, but made too many mistakes. And you know who that's going to have? That's going to have Germany and Japan. Because they were great, but they made too many mistakes. But, other than that, that's my World War II list. I really hope y'all enjoyed the video. We haven't done a ranking video in a while. But, if you disagree with any of my rankings, let me know. I mean, I'm free to changing some of this stuff. It's pretty subjective on your opinion on the country. But, other than that, guys, really hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you in the next one.